although we may think about the different levels, different layers of ourselves as separate, they're actually all part of the same one. And so, beginning, for example, physically, I am not my body. We know that. Spirituality 101, not the body. And yet, there's an impact, a very direct impact upon my spiritual experience of the body. Now, what do I mean? I don't mean there's a direct impact on my spiritual experience by, say, my fingernail or my wrist, but the brain is part of the physical body. The nervous system, our spinal cord, our very physical brain, very physical, tangible gray matter, white matter, neurons. An impact there impacts my spiritual experience. And on a very simple level, we know that, for example, because when the chemistry or electricity of our brain changes, we feel differently, both emotionally and mentally, as well as spiritually. For example, meditating after you have just, say, drunk an entire bottle of vodka is going to be a completely different experience than meditating if you have not just drank an entire bottle of vodka. Okay? Meditating, chanting, doing puja, after having ingested a lot of mind-altering, brain-altering chemicals, whether they are legal or illegal, prescribed, over-the-counter, whatever they may be, it impacts us. Even things as simple, for example, as certain types of food. In ashrams, for example, they avoid things like garlic and onions. Why? I mean, I won't go too much into that discussion, but it simply has to do with how they impact the physical body. They're wonderful for our health, but how they impact the body in a way that intersects with our spiritual ability to meditate, to attain stillness in the mind. So we know that although I am not my body, although I'm not the matter of my body, that which is happening in the matter of my body impacts my ability to connect spiritually. You then take it from the physical to the emotional. Sitting down to meditate when I'm really angry is much more difficult than sitting down to meditate when I'm in a really peaceful, love-filled, joyous space. Right? Anybody else notice this? Okay. So again, I'm not my body, I'm not my emotions, I'm not the anger, and yet that which is taking place in my body, in the brain, in the emotions of the mind, impacts my ability to have a spiritual experience. If I'm going to meditate when I'm angry, first I have to dissipate the anger. First I have to bring the anger into a place of peace, into a place of consciousness. And only then can my meditation even begin. So the intersection between spiritual well-being and mental illness is they're different aspects of ourself. So that which takes place in the chemistry and the electricity of my brain, the very physical brain, which when it goes awry, we refer to it as mental illness. But really, more and more each year, we're learning scientifically how much of that is correlated with, if not caused by, simply a different chemistry and different electrical behavior in the brain. We can stimulate different emotions. You can stimulate an area of the brain and evoke sadness, stimulate an area of the brain, evoke anger, stimulate an area of the brain, evoke sexual arousal, stimulate an area. I mean, we know this. We also know, again, that chemistry, chemicals that I ingest, drugs, alcohol, they impact how I feel emotionally. If you talk to a bunch of people who drink too much alcohol and you say, why do you do that? They'll give you all emotional reasons. Well, I do it because I'm stressed. I need to be unstressed. I do it because I'm depressed. I want to be not depressed. I do it because I'm shy. I want to be not so inhibited. And so they're using chemistry to bring about a different emotional state. And I emphasize this point because when we talk about our emotions or our feelings, most of us feel like they are very core to who we are. This is how I feel. I need you to understand it. You have to listen. I mean, right? How many of our interpersonal difficult conversations are rooted in something that sounds like, but this is my feeling and it's essential and you must understand and get it. And I don't mean to undermine that, but when we're able to understand really that a chemical would change how I feel, that a little bit of electric stimulation would change how I feel, it helps us take those feelings a little bit more lightly. It helps us take our emotional drama a little bit less seriously. Spiritual well-being, spiritual experience, is that which takes us beyond chemistry and electricity, beyond what we've been indoctrinated in by the world, into a truth that is not dependent upon what experiences I had as a child, what type of family of origin I come from, what the current chemistry or electricity of my brain might be. But it's a truth that isn't contingent upon my current state. That's the spiritual truth. But as a physical being, my only way of interacting with that truth, of knowing that truth, is through my physical brain. Which is why in all of the spiritual teachings, in all of the ashrams or retreat centers or yoga centers or monasteries of any different religion all over the world, they have teachings and rules and regulations and discipline not only about your meditation. It's not do whatever you want and then at 5 a.m. we all gather to meditate. But how you spend the rest of the day, no problem. Yeah, there's a bar down the block, there's a brothel over here, there's a disco in this corner. There's a reason that the discipline of the spiritual life is one, whether you're a celibate monastic or a householder, either way. Whether you're learning about it just in a yoga class or some meditation retreat. But if your teacher is good, inevitably they're going to talk to you about the impact of things like what you eat, what music you listen to, what TV shows you watch, how much time a day you spend engaged with your device, and your spiritual well-being. Because if they didn't talk to you about that, it wouldn't be a full program. Our ability to sit and meditate, even, for example, forget drugs and alcohol for a moment. Has anybody ever tried to get up 4 or 5 in the morning after they've had a really big Indian or Italian or Mexican feast the night before? Anybody ever tried to do that? I have. Anybody else? So you have a big dinner the night before. 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night. You get up the next morning to meditate. How do you feel, right? She goes, ugh. Yeah, exactly. But it was perfect. It was perfect because that's exactly how you feel. Now, on the deepest spiritual level, a bowl of spaghetti has nothing to do with the eternal truth of who I am. And yet, it has a direct impact on my ability to experience that. Because I need the chemistry and electricity and physicalness of my body to be in alignment to help me transcend that. And so we take care of what we eat, of what music we listen to, of what TV shows we watch, of who our friend circle are. All of these things are part of our spiritual experience. And so whether it's mental illness or something as seemingly innocuous as indigestion, and anything in between, yes, it's going to impact how you experience, dive into your spiritual truth. And so if I'm furious, or I'm overcome with lust, or I'm simply constantly burping because of the dinner I had the night before, either way, meditation is going to be very difficult. And this is why the teaching is all about control the mind and control the senses. Otherwise, you take something like the Bhagavad Gita, 700 precious verses. For a scripture, that is nothing. You can get a Gita this size. It's the cliff notes of spirituality. Long before anybody was talking about cliff notes or shortcuts. Why in 700 precious verses would Lord Krishna take up time on something as seemingly material as what type of food we should eat? I mean, really? He's talking about the ultimate soul. Never born, never dies. Can't be wet with water, dried by the wind, cut with knives, but be careful what you eat. That's a really interesting dichotomy. You are not the body. O Arjuna, neither were you born, nor will you die. Nor were they born, nor will they die. You are the soul. And eat in moderation. Not too heavy. Why? Why would he come from this place of the ultimate, highest, metaphysical, spiritual truths and take up precious verses on our food? Because it impacts us. It impacts our spiritual experience. Why would he emphasize about emotional stability and equanimity? If I'm the soul and I was never born and never died, then success, failure? Why even talk to me about these things? Why talk to me about sukh and dukh, happiness and sadness? Of what relevance are they? Well, they are relevant because, like my physical experience, the chemicals in my body from what I eat are impacting the ability of my physical brain to be my ally in meditation in the same way. My clutching, my yearning, or my aversion, my preferences, my likes, my dislikes, all of that is interfering with my meditation. And so anything that's going to interfere with or impede my ability is worthy of being included in those 700 verses. So this is where, even though, no, you're not the physical body, no, you are not your emotional patterns and experiences and chemistry and electricity, regardless of where you are on the illness to health spectrum. Even though you're not those, we have to take care of both of those, because we need them both to be in alignment to help us meditate. It's like whenever I begin the meditation, and I always say, stop moving, right? It's always one of the very first instructions I give. Stop moving. Why? Theoretically, if our highest truth is that we are God, what should it matter if I'm absolutely still or if I'm dancing? Shouldn't matter. I should be able to be jumping up and down, hopping on one foot, skipping rope. Why should skipping rope impede my ability to know that I'm God? It shouldn't, and it does. Because what we know is that having that spiritual experience, especially in the early stages, is so not what we are programmed for in our mental minds. And we really need all the extra help we can get. So we need the body to be still. We need it to be not still burping from last night's dinner. We need it to be healthy and strong enough that sitting here, my knee isn't killing me or my back killing me. And we need the mind not to be saying, it's not fair, I hate him, I hate her, I wouldn't have to meditate if she didn't make me so mad. It's all his fault. If he just were nicer, I wouldn't have to be sitting here and meditating. Right? So that is an impediment to meditation. If every time I close my eyes, that's what happens, I'm not meditating. And so this is where we have to keep the body healthy, keep the mind healthy. This is why I always say when people ask about, psychology, I always say use it for whatever way you can use it to help your mind become an ally. Use it. And then let it go. So don't get stuck in it, but use it as a tool to bring about the understanding, the mental health that enables you to sit and meditate and say, thank you, God, instead of it's not fair. And then you let it go. Because that's when then we're able to shift our focus to the spiritual work and to the spiritual experience.